Hi guys, Mrs. Gates here. I wanted to give you a quick run through on what this moving man activity should look like. So as you're opening this up, there's a couple of things that I wanted to point out. The first one is that it's going to be really helpful to split your screen, putting the Moving Man lab on one side and your Google Doc that you're filling out on the other side. So if you don't remember how to do that, you're looking for the Alt key on the bottom left-hand corner of your Chromebook and one of the square brackets to push the screens either to the left or to the right. Once you've done that, you want to have the PHET Moving Man site open on one side. You're going to press play. And it's going to take just a minute for it to open up here. On the other half of the screen, you want to have your lab guidelines open or the lab assignment that you're going to be filling out. I'm going to start working through this example and show you how that should look, and then you will do the other 5 puzzles as you go. For each one of these, you are going to have the challenge of trying to make the man in this simulation move in a particular way according to some guidelines that are being given to you. Each puzzle that you're working through will have one box that's in yellow that's sort of given information, and then 1 or 2 purple boxes that you're trying to fill in based on having gotten the motion to match what's in the yellow box. In the example, I've given some initial conditions. We want him to start at -6 with a velocity of 4 and an acceleration of 2. So to do that, we're going to look at the Moving Man simulation. It's over here on the left. Once it's open, click on Charts. Charts means it's going to give you the graphs of the motion as it happens. Okay, so in the example, I want to start off with a position of -6. I want my initial velocity to be 4 meters per second, and I want the acceleration to be -2. And you can see that as I'm doing this, he's moving to the position of -6 on this number line over here. He's facing forwards because we have a positive velocity. I think it's helpful to click on this show velocity vector. It gives you a visual representation with this red arrow of what direction he's moving in, and the bigger the arrow, the faster he's moving. Okay, so once this is set up, I'm going to press play, and we can see him. He's moving to the right. Oh, he's slowing down. He's stopping. Nope, he turned around. Now he's moving to the left, and we can tell that he's getting faster and faster. Okay, so I'm going to stop the motion. Now, what I'm looking for is a description in words of this motion. So I can describe this motion in words and say he started moving to the right, slowed down, turned around, and ended moving to the left and speeding up, okay, until he crashed into that brick wall. Right. Then I want to look at my graphs of motion. And so I want to kind of reproduce the graphs that I see here on the lab form. So I'm going to double click on where it says graphs of motion, and it opens up a Google Sheet drawing. And on this drawing, I have these 3 graphs: position, velocity, acceleration, and I have some lines that are pre-made that I can just click and drag over to the appropriate spot on my graphs. Okay, so I look at this first, and my position graph, it looks like sort of a rainbow shape. It's an upside down U, and so I'm going to grab that shape from down here, and I'm just going to drag that up here. And it looks like he's always in the negative position. So he was moving forward, but he was still in negative position. He hadn't gotten to 0 yet. So I'm going to keep that below the axis so it matches this. Okay, velocity started with a positive number, crossed the axis, and became negative in a straight line. So I'm going to grab this line, and I'm going to drag it over here. And I actually want this to be a little bit longer so it shows that it's going below the axis as well. And so I can change the angle on that if I want to. Okay. Now, the acceleration graph, this is really hard to see. I think it's below the axis, but you can use these tools to zoom in. I'm going to zoom in as much as I can. And I can look at this and say, okay, that acceleration was a negative number. Remember, I said it as -2, and it's a horizontal line. So I'm going to grab the horizontal line over here, and I'm going to drag that down to the acceleration. I'm going to show that it's in the negative part of the graph. These look like they match the general shapes here, and so I'm going to save and close. And now I can see that they've appeared the way I want them to in this graphs of motion. In your part of this assignment, your challenge is to use the description that's given here and play around with a simulation of the moving man until he does what is stated in the description. So for puzzle 1, the man starts at 5 meters, walking to the right. He slows down until he comes to a stop and then turns around and walks back to the left. So you're going to say, okay, well, we want maybe the position to start off at 5. And we want him to walk to the right and slow down. So what do we know about the velocity and the acceleration at the beginning that might make that happen? So you're going to just put in some things to try something. So, right, so maybe 7 and 2, whatever numbers you want, you're going to play with that, around with this and say, did that work? Did that follow this description? If it did, then you can put the initial conditions that worked into the purple box, sketch the graphs of motion that worked in the graphs of motion section. Okay. If you try something and it doesn't work, you can just click this reset button down here and reset all the settings. It'll pull him back to 0. All your things go back to 0, so you can start back over and try something new. Good luck. Have fun. I'm always here for questions, so let me know if you run into trouble.